Welcome to Conversations in Between the Realms, a podcast where the mystical meets the everyday. Join Amanda Nova and Beth Renov each week as we dive into the profound journey of awakening, sharing our experiences, insights, and the lessons that guide us toward our divine purpose. Together, we awaken and guide our souls and others, exploring the magic of living in the 3D while staying connected to the higher realms, embracing the challenges, and celebrating the growth. You've been guided here for a reason. Trust in the journey and let the unfolding begin.
Hello, welcome back to Conversations in Between the Realms. I'm Amanda Nova, and I'm here as always with the lovely Beth Renov, and it's Halloween. Spooky. When we're recording, but you will be listening to this after Halloween. So anyway, how are you doing today on this fall Halloween day?
I mean, I love Halloween, so I am pretty happy. I wish it was a little nicer out. Like, I hope the kids come trick-or-treating. I went to Costco, got the really big bags of mixed candy, so they better be coming to get it.
Wow.
Well, Lauren made me get, like, the full-size candy bars. I'm like, I feel like the parents would be very upset that we did that. But
I mean, depending on who you get, I'm sure that Rob would be
True.
thrilled if
Yeah.
somebody gave Arya a full-size candy bars for him to eat. This is
Right, that's
our
true.
first year trick-or-treating with Arya.
Oh, so cute.
I know. We're officially trick-or-treating parents, which I don't know if I'm happy about or not happy about. Like, I feel like now I have to participate in Halloween, and I don't like to
You're not.
participate in anything. Just, you know me, and
Yeah.
I'm not a joiner. So, but yeah, we have to actually take her and go house to house, which is going to be really interesting.
Oh, well, I think it's a
Yeah.
good way to like meet neighbors and,
Yeah, we have
do
to
they?
drive to another neighborhood. It's not going to be our neighborhood.
Oh,
I
okay.
know.
Like you can't drive tonight. Like last year, I had to run out and get more candy because we were done in like 10 minutes. And it was like you can't drive. Everybody's out. And it's very much like hocus pocus. So,
Yes.
that's my
Well,
town.
when you live in the more country, like where we are, they don't
Hmm.
do trick-or-treating in our neighborhood. We don't have sidewalks. We're a little bit
Right.
more spread out. Even though like we have neighbors, I'm surprised. There's a lot of kids in our neighborhood, and I'm sort of surprised that we don't do it. And I kind of want to bring it back
Mm-hmm.
in our neighborhood. But apparently our neighborhood is dead. Nobody trick-or-treats here. So everybody goes out and they go to
Oh.
different parts of Weston or Reading or different parts of like different streets. So we have to
Uh-huh.
actually drive to another neighborhood to go
Oh,
trick-or-treating.
okay. I mean, we are kind of country, just not my neighborhood. So, like,
Mhm.
you literally drive down the street and it's like that. But we don't have sidewalks either. I don't know why that's a country thing, but they do not like sidewalks here.
Yeah.
But everybody just fills the street, and it's like, you know, it's really nice and wholesome to see. That's all I know. But
Yeah.
you really, and they're so polite. I'm like, they did such a great job raising these kids. So
Yes.
it's very, I'm like, that's how you know you're old, that you're like, wow, they raised them well.
Raising these
But
kids right. Yeah,
yeah.
so we'll see. We're gonna go out with the earlier crowds around 5 o'clock. So we'll see how Aria does with it.
Aw.
But yeah, so Halloween, and we were talking because there was, I believe, a new moon that happened this past week, or maybe it was
Oh,
last
yeah.
week, and we missed the episode from last week because it hit us so hard. I was so sick. You could still hear it in my voice that I'm still recovering from how sick I was. So we missed the
Yeah.
episode, and there was a new moon, and the new moon was in Libra. And so we were talking a little bit about how the signs impact us and how the new moon impacts us. And I was telling you how I am a rising Libra, and I was telling you how I feel like more and more as I get older that I'm more like my rising sign than I am like my sun
Hmm.
sign, which is in Virgo. And what is your rising sign?
Oh,
Gemini?
I'm Virgo all the way.
You're Virgo rising and Virgo sun? What's your moon
Hmm.
sign?
Pisces. I'm very Pisces. But like, I think it's really true that it's like inside, like who I actually am is very Pisces, but how I present is Virgo to a T, like almost annoyingly.
That's
But
so fascinating. So my moon sign is Capricorn. So Capricorn is always about work. So it's very
mhm.
interesting is like the things that I've always cared about, right? Is like working.
Right.
I am such a workhorse. I do have a lot of Capricorn. Virgo, I think, is so fascinating because I feel like Virgo really gets this rap of being the organizer, the one who's like so judgmental and so critical. And I do think I'm very self-critical, but I've never
Mhm.
felt that organization. And you do have that like OCD anal
Oh my god.
Virgo-ness.
Oh my god, I made you go through my dishes just to show you, like, what drives
Yes.
me nuts. Like, you need to follow a pattern. Like,
Oh
and
my God.
Lauren's a Libra. She's like, "I don't care about that. I'm just trying to get the dishes in the cabinet." And I'm like, "But we established a pattern. We need to keep the pattern." And, like, that is just, like, me to a T. But I think Virgo, yeah, like, that's the rap, but I think it's, like, people who are therapists, people who are really good caretakers,
Mhm.
but I believe that Virgos, and why you're a Virgo is if you have Virgo in your like core signs, I think you are here to be a light worker. I think there
Mhm.
is this like purpose. And I feel that so deeply in Virgos. I'm sure there are other signs, but I'm just so familiar with Virgo, and
Yeah.
that's what I notice about Virgos is they're all here to do a job. And maybe
Right.
that's why we get the rap of being like organized and type A is because we're really here. We got to get down to business and do what we're
Right.
here for.
Right.
Like
Well,
that's what I like associate more.
yeah, well, Virgo is really the divine feminine, right? So a lot
Right.
of light workers are really meant to be working in flow. They're really meant to be more in the divine
Right.
feminine, right? Virgo is the maiden. It's really
Hmm.
supposed to be in that divine flow. And what I think is so interesting is my my north node is Pisces and my south node
Hmm.
is Virgo. So it's always really interesting. And we've talked about this before. And we did have somebody when we were channeling. Remember, we had somebody from the Council of Light come through and tell us really, really interestingly about
Yes.
how you're really going through life trying to reach your south node. I mean, your north node, become your north node. Your south node is
Right.
what you're trying to kind of make peace with. And I think I've always really tried to fit myself into Virgo. I've tried to force myself to be Virgo. I've tried to really be like, okay, I want to be someone who's really neat. I want to be someone who's really organized. I
Mhm.
want to be someone who really has their shit together. But I've never been able to be that person. And that's always been really hard for me. And I've fought against that my entire life. Like I've
Mm.
always been really struggling with that. Like it's always been an issue for me. And I've beat myself up about it. And I've really been more like my North Node is Pisces. So it's more the water, the more in flow. And Libra rising, that being more of who I really am, right? Like your rising sign is who you truly, truly are, right?
Mhm.
That being like, so when you're reading, and an astrologer told me this, like when you're reading your signs, like you're really supposed to be reading your rising sign. And so yours
Mhm.
is Virgo, so you're reading Virgo anyway, right? But
Right.
Libra is about balance. They're about harmony. They're about beauty.
Beauty. Yeah.
What's so fascinating about Libra is it all comes back to Venus. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a long
Mm.
time, you know how closely I'm related to Venus. If I've really leaned into who I truly, truly am, I really am Libra, but I've been trying to force myself to be Virgo forever,
Right.
right?
Oh
But
my
if
god,
I,
and that's so
yeah,
funny you said
yeah,
that because what was I saying about Virgos? Actually, what I said was they're really lucky and Jupiter is all about luck.
hmm,
And it's so funny. Like I really just feel like a very lucky person and I don't know why I've always attributed that to Virgo.
hmm,
Um but there is this like protection around me for some
yeah,
reason that I do feel. Not that bad things don't happen, but I just and maybe it's like the feeling lucky perspective versus actually being lucky,
yeah,
like I mean, yes, I am lucky, I am fortunate, I am privileged, and like I I have a great family, I have great friends, I have a business, I have a roof over my head, I have everything I could want, and or everything that I need. I could want more. But, I feel that I think it's this luck, and what else is Jupiter? There's something else with Jupiter, but I don't remember. But I always associate it with like luck.
Yeah, there's something else that's Jupiter. I don't know off the top of my head, but I do think it's really fascinating as we kind of look at them, and we're looking at them on a really broad level, right? Because neither one of us
Right.
are astrologers, so it's
No.
definitely something to look into. But I'm just curious for those who are listening, I know that there are some who are listening who are probably more more knowledgeable about this type of
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm just curious if you look at your rising sign instead of looking at your sun sign, what might look different to you, because that really was a huge opening for me and a huge aha for me to be like, "Oh, that's okay." Because for
Mhm.
years I was like, "Ugh, this is not me. Why isn't this me?" And I would be so frustrated. I
Right.
would be like, "Why am I not this Virgo person that everyone sees?" And like you said, there's so many sides of it. Like there's so many
Right.
beautiful things about Virgo that is not just Virgo as this like very
Right.
like, regimented person. Like there are beautiful, beautiful feminine elements to
Mhm.
Virgo. And we've had this discussion too, where like you have a lot of femininity to you and, a lot of beautiful things that are very Virgo. Like you are a lot, you're triple Virgo, right? Because
No.
I thought there was another Virgo in your chart. There is a lot of Virgo in your chart.
No, it's only those 2.
I thought there was
I don't
another
think
one. You don't have isn't one of
no.
your rising or I mean, one of your nodes Virgo?
No, I think it's a fire sign actually, or
One
Gemini,
of
I don't
yours is
know.
Gemini. One of them is Gemini, and I forget the other one. Okay, guys. So we're just okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind us. But
Yeah.
anyway, just check out your rising sign. I think it's really interesting in how it really resembles who you truly are versus your sun sign, which is more of how you present yourself to the world.
Right. And I actually like what we're about to talk about because this is kind of a continuation from the last episode of like
Mhm.
how we store trauma in the body. I have to think that your sign kind of has something to do with that too. It's like how you are as a person. And I think for me, I would feel like the moon sign, like how I truly am like inside, like
Mhm.
and how I like face myself is so much more than like Virgo, you know?
Yeah.
Um like, I think how I dealt with trauma is Virgo, but how I
Yeah.
store trauma is very Pisces.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Well, I mean, and then if that's the point too, with my moon being Capricorn, I think I've tried to push through a lot of my
Bulldoze.
pain and really
Yeah.
bulldoze a lot of my pain. And so, what we wanted to talk about today, because we had brought it up on the last podcast, is talking about storing trauma in the body, the way that we store trauma, pain, different experiences
Mhm.
energetically in the tissue, in the energetic body, in the physical body, and that kind of connection. And I also think for me, it's such a purpose because my purpose here really is to bridge the soul and the body, right? The light body and the physical body. And so if I'm thinking like, okay, my rising sign is who I really am, my purpose here, then it's balance. It's the
Right.
scales. It's the Libra. It's that balance. But I've been
Mhm.
really, really picking and beating myself up all this time that I've had pain, that I've been on this journey, that I haven't been this like perfect human that's just like, feeling amazing. But I know now that all of the physical pain that I've been through, all of the illness that I've been through, all of the trauma related to that has led to this point where I know how to now deal with physical pain and trauma in the body. Like I understand that so much more now and how to help others deal with it.
Yeah. I thought your sciatic one or your post yesterday was so good. I was like, "Oh my god, dead on, feeling all that."
Yeah. It's it's so fascinating because it really is so true. And, there are physical things that happen, there are medical things that happen. But once you start looking
Mhm.
at the body in that way of, wow, I'm storing these traumas, I'm storing these things, and then they're manifesting physically as my body telling me something. it
Mhm.
makes so much sense. And then you also can clear it once you are dealing with the emotions, you're dealing with the energetic, and then you're dealing with it physically instead of just throwing medication at it, right? Like you're realizing there's
Right.
other ways to deal with stuff too.
Yeah. The answer isn't only to be a Band-Aid,
Mhm.
like, to keep it together, like, and that's really what medication does, is it doesn't get rid of it, it just it helps you, which is very much needed, like, no knocking medicine, but, like, you're not getting to the reason, like, the root cause of, like, why it's even happening in the first place.
Right. Right. I think the thing that I find the most interesting about storing trauma in the body is that it's all different kinds of trauma. It's
Mhm.
past life trauma, it's ancestral trauma, it's this
Mhm.
life trauma, and that's the stuff that we work with, right? So when
Right.
people are coming to you or they're coming to me, those are the things that we're finding. So they're coming to us and they're saying, okay, my neck hurts or my chest is tight, and maybe they are dealing with that in a medical way, but there's other things going on. Like, you did a reading for my dad, and you were saying there's stuff going on in his stomach, and I can see that this is there, and there's emotion, and there's trauma and all this stuff going on. And now, months later, he gets diagnosed with colitis and all of these different
Mhm.
things. Had we dealt with all that stuff months ago when you had done a reading and told him that all of that stuff was there, it could have been prevented. So energetically, it was showing up before it even physically was showing up. And that's also really fascinating when you
Yeah.
see that in the field.
Right. And it comes up as like a picture. It's like, I'm telling
Hmm.
you, it's here, it's happening. But what is it connected to? And I think that is where you're not going to go to a doctor and they're going to be like, listen, you have an ancestral line where we ignored our feelings and there was a trauma that was never processed. You need to energetically release that block or tear or whatever it is. Like, and they often like are aligned with chakras. So it's like
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
not weird that like, yeah, your energy, where that chakra is, like your stomach, you know there is something. And I don't think your dad processes emotion like, I think you said he has a lot of anger, and that's going to get stored in your back and your stomach. Like, think about when you're angry or you're anxious, your stomach gets all like in knots,
Hmm.
and so it's literally energetically being like, focus here,
Hmm.
and you need to get rid of that. I don't remember what I said your dad's, like,
Yeah,
issues came from, but
I don't remember what it was
yeah.
either, but it was something that was there, and we went through this the other day too. Like, I, was having something going on in my chest and my throat, and I know when there's something in my chest, when there's heaviness there or in my throat, I know that it's a grief. That grief was tied to a past life, right? And I came to you and I was like, I know this is coming up, and it's harder to do it on myself than it is to do it on somebody
Yeah,
else. And I see it all the time, right? Like, I'm working on somebody's body and I will be, I'll be working on their chest, right? I'll be working on, let's say, like the heart chakra. And all of a sudden, I will get a flash in my mind of them being stabbed in the chest in a past life and something happened, or stabbed in the back. And then what lives there is that past life trauma. And how it manifests
right,
in this life is chest tightness, or something in this life triggered it, right? It's like, not like as a
right,
kid they were also feeling that. It's just that something in
right,
this lifetime triggered that to be now coming up. So now they're feeling tightness in the chest, and they don't know where that's coming from. They don't know what's going on with
right,
that, but we see it
right.
and we can clear it, and so that's why I think it's so fascinating, all the different things that can live in those chakras, in those pain points.
Right. And it's not like it's always going to come in a chronic illness. It's often just sensations and it comes when it's ready to be released
Right.
because you've up leveled, you've done enough, you've cleared the clutter where it's like, okay, it's safe to come out now because I've built the foundation to be safe,
Mhm.
and we've learned the lesson like we're ready to get rid of this. So when it comes up in a sensation like tightness in the chest, headaches, stomach issues, or lack of sexuality, like libido. Like these are all pointing to where things are and
Mhm.
what is going to come up,
Yeah.
and it's not that it's not connected to something in this lifetime too, but it's probably connected to this lifetime because it's from another lifetime or an ancestral line.
Right, right. I Yes, and I think it's usually there's multiple layers. I think things being stored from this lifetime is also super fascinating because, we
Mhm,
had kind of looked at this a little bit last time, but the way that it gets stored in a trauma response is from like getting stored in the tissue or the fascia, which is something that, I've talked about. We mentioned this a little bit last time, was like, you know, that freeze response. So something
mhm,
happens and your body goes into freeze, right, instead of fight or flight, and your body tenses, right, and the muscles constrict and everything constricts, and then it gets stored in the muscles, right? So
mhm,
that happens, right? You don't know that it's going on because you're just experiencing the trauma at this time, right? And
right,
then you go on about your life after this happens. And then later on, you start noticing, wow, I have chronic muscle pain or I have chronic headaches because that trauma is stored in the tissues from that
right,
moment of that constriction, of that tightness. Like our muscles, our bones, our blood, our joints, our tissues hold all of that. It holds all of those stories, like it holds all of that trauma, and that's why in this lifetime that happens.
mhm. Yeah, and it's so interesting because I was thinking about it's like if you fight, not that like freeze is the only way to store trauma, but think about it is like you're stuck. You
Mhm,
didn't do anything, so it's like that's what kept you safe. So probably when each like okay, so when each trauma response comes up, I think it's like, okay, so if you fought in a traumatic incident and then you notice yourself starting to fight, it's because you learn it keeps you safe, right?
mhm.
So, in terms of like freeze and it really sticking in you and not wanting, because I just see it not letting up its grip,
Yeah,
right? And it's because it's telling you, "I'm keeping you safe, I'm keeping you safe."
right.
And really the work is to be like, "Actually, you're harming me now," right?
Right,
And
right, right.
you need to let go, right? And so that's why, and like right after a traumatic experience often is not the time, like, yes, it can be time to like work on something, but I don't know that your body or brain has processed it because often your brain shuts down, right? And it's like we just got to keep going. Don't worry about it. We're not going to like have those memories pop up right away. And not saying it
Mhm.
can't happen, but when it's really stored as trauma, like it's been years. So it's so reflexive. It's like riding a bike. It's like tense up, right?
Right.
Let's store it a little bit more cuz that's what helped us in that moment. It's not necessarily what helps us now. So it's kind of just unlearning coping skills that just don't work for you. And I think through that and energy work, it allows it to like break free.
Right,
So it
right.
it's not even just the energy work. You have to like do the work to tell your body I'm safe now,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, and I think to your point, like, I think physically moving, a lot of times things come to the surface, and then
Right.
you kinda get stuck with, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, how many times have so many people been in, like, a yoga class, and they're doing pigeon pose, and they're, like, start to cry? I mean, like, I have felt that so many
Right.
times where, like, you're doing something, or you're dancing, or you're doing something, and you just feel, like, that wave of emotion, right? And it's, like,
Mhm.
because you're, freeing it, right? And so especially
Right.
if you fought, it's really in that motion,
Right.
right? So it's like
Right.
it's coming out. So it makes so much sense that would come to the surface. And then you're like, "Okay, so now what am I supposed to do to deal with all of this?"
Right.
And the hope is that you don't pull it all back into Pandora's box, that
Right.
you, like, can free it and then process it, then deal with it. There's certain modalities and things where we bring it out to the surface to look at it, to deal with it, to get it
Right.
out, right?
Mhm. And it's not like you're just going to have energy work and you're not going to cry. Like, it's not that you're not going to experience it. Like, you might need to cry. You might need to feel a little bit crabby because it's been sticking in there for so
Mhm.
long. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like this, like, easy, like, okay, it's lifted. I feel great. It might be like a healing period,
Yeah,
right?
like it
So
hurts. Yeah, like an
it
energetic,
hurts.
emotional hurts. I mean, and I've always had this theory, like, I have this part on my legs, like on my thighs, like, I've said this to you before. It's like the worst name ever to like call your body, but like my saddlebags. It's like, oh God, it's so gross. I like hate saying that, but like,
Oh my
but
God.
it's like the part of my body also that's like now that I'm thinking about it, received like the least love for me forever, right? Because I've always been so mean
Mhm.
to that part of my body, right? Like that part right
Yeah.
underneath your butt that's like, we all like hate as women. And that part has always been like where there's been like more cellulite, right? Like but if I press that tissue, it's always been like super duper tender. There's always been pain there. There's always been like something like more there. And with my back pain, with my sciatica, like with everything over the years. And I've said this to Beth before, like I feel like my Lyme disease and the co-infections are stored in that tissue. Like they're stored
Oh,
in
yeah.
my spinal tissue, but it's also stored in that tissue. And when I like will do massage and different things, like it'll come to the surface. I feel it
Mhm.
there. Like I know that it's there. And I do cupping and I'll do different things to kind of like bring it out. But now I'm thinking about it, like I'm so mean to that. Like I feel like I wonder what would happen if I like just like put light into that area. I wonder if my cellulite would go away and it would just be beautiful.
I mean, you'd make $1,000,000, more than 1,000,000 if you could, but I'm sure that it does, but I don't know about the cellulite, but maybe the pain, you know?
Yeah, but it's so
Maybe the
interesting that it's
tenderness.
tender in that spot that I've like
Right.
also like always like hated that spot on my
Did.
body. And I
Yeah.
also think that that's interesting, right? It's like, okay, like the places in our body that we don't give love to. And then there's like also like this
Right.
pain and this tenderness there. And so I do think that there's like trauma stored in those spaces,
Mhm.
like in those places where we're
Mhm.
like also like mean to, because take a big step back, okay? We are energy. We are made of energy. Okay. So if everything is energy, then the words that we speak, the way that we move, every single thing that we do, everything we listen to, every single thing impacts the energy that makes up who we are. Right. So
Mhm.
all of that is just energy. So it's just like a thought, right? Of like, so what's trapped there in the trauma, like we can release that by also just shifting what the frequency is of that.
Absolutely. And that's ironically what I posted today. It was like, it's all about how you treat yourself, you know? And
Mhm.
that's and my thing was like, because I feel like this is like going on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like we've replaced like being good people with just telling ourselves we're good people because of like how we identify ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And my point was, how do you talk to yourself? How do you treat yourself? Because that's a reflection of how you treat others. But on the inverse, how you treat yourself is how well your body functions, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you are so nasty to yourself, like think about how you talk to yourself. That's half the reason people have depression and anxiety is their inner voice, their inner critic is so loud and there's zero self-compassion. There's
Mhm.
zero seeing yourself as a human being, right? And
Mhm.
if we can't do that, if it's that strong in that way, imagine what it's doing cellularly,
Mhm.
right? Like and creating disease, creating pain and you might be creating your own trauma like, of just, like, how
Right.
you speak to yourself.
Right, right, exactly. Well, it's all energetic, and there's that whole thing about there was a scientist who did like speaking into water, and he spoke
Yes,
into
I
the
was gonna
two
say that too.
glasses, yeah, and he spoke
Yeah,
negatively into one and positively into the other, and it changed how they looked. And one was beautiful with the like
well,
the crystallized beautiful, and the other
right.
one was like not right. And so, but I'm thinking of that as like an energetic place about healing, right? If we're kind of like just bringing it back to like the theme of all this, like if your goal is to heal that trauma, and to heal yourself physically, then energetically, like if that's your goal, then how you're speaking to yourself also is
Mhm.
important, right? Because if you, and also the way you're thinking is important. So if you're thinking, like, if you wake up every single day and you think, I am in pain, and there's a whole thing with Joe Dispenza with this as well. It's like if you wake up every single day looking for that same old pain, you're going to find it.
Find it, right.
Right? Like, so that's also part of all of this is like you decide, okay, I don't want to be in this pain anymore. I want to remove this trauma from my physical body, my energetic body. And you decide to do that. That is exactly what's going to happen because you made that choice and you decided to do that. And then you don't
Right.
wake up every single day looking for it. You make that choice. And so, to your point, like, then you speak to yourself kindly and watch how your cells reorganize themselves to be different.
And actually, that I forget who said it, but, like, how you speak to yourself within the first minutes of waking up determines how you are gonna be for the day. So, if you are
Mm,
waking up and already, like, oh, like, I didn't wake up early enough. Oh, I'm in pain," like, that is setting the tone for the rest of
yeah.
your day,
Yeah.
So, even if you're in pain, you could say, "Okay, like, what can help me today to feel better?" Right?
Right.
Versus, "Oh, I'm in pain. It's going to be such a hard day." Right? You could say, "Okay, how can I be gentle with myself today?"
Hmm.
Right? And it's not just the words, it's the actions, right? So really, okay, I want to be kind to myself. How can I show myself kindness and not just how I speak to myself, right? So maybe it's not forcing yourself to do something that's going to set you back, or maybe it's pushing yourself to do something, like on like some days where you're really in pain, maybe you need to take a break from something and take something off your plate. But on other days, maybe where your mood is low, you push yourself to go for a walk and get out in nature because that is actually what's going to be kind to yourself and get
Right.
yourself to another place. But how you say that and motivate yourself is how it determines how your body's going to feel. So if you're
Right.
like, "Hey, I know you're really tired right now. Like, I think just get outside and go for a walk for 10 minutes." Like, that's all you have to do. If you do more, wonderful. Versus you're being so lazy, you don't feel good, you know a walk is gonna make you better, but, like, "Come on, let's just go do this." You are not gonna feel as good
Right.
because, like, the
Right.
energy inside is gonna match that, right?
Right. Right. No, it's totally, totally true. And I think too, like, if you're looking for ways to release the trauma, if you feel like you have that physical pain in your body and you're trying to get rid of it, some ways that can really help. Doing the energy work could be really helpful.
Mhm.
Doing breath work can be really helpful. Doing things like yoga, doing body work can be really helpful. And I would say, I think, the biggest thing for me, and I always say this to people, like if you do Kundalini, if you do breath work, if you do any of these things that bring that trauma out of the body and to the surface, make sure that you do have the support to process it and integrate it. And that's
Right,
why, we always talk about the work that we do together because I'm really good at activating and bringing it to the surface. And Beth is really good at helping you then figure out the pieces and how to put them together and how to integrate it. You do need to have someone to help you parse through it. Otherwise
mhm,
it's just you open up Pandora's box and
right,
it's all there. And if I didn't have that, I don't know that I would be in such a place that I am today if I
right,
didn't have that help really in that support because otherwise you're just dumping the trauma everywhere. And your breathwork facilitator, your Kundalini facilitator, I'm telling you right now, because I am those people are not trained in trauma. They're not trained
right,
they are not your therapist. It's not the same thing. Make sure you have a team that is fully stacked so that you have the right support. It's important.
right. Yes, and even if you do those things, you need other people to do it. Like, I can't see things for myself just because I'm do what I do, Like, I still need to go to you. I still need to go to other
Mhm.
people. You need that support. But what I can say is if you feel like using a guide, okay, I think your little series on the
Mhm.
body and like what comes up, if you're feeling pain there, and listen, affordability is a real thing, and
Mhm.
and I also want to give people tools so that they can do it on their own. I think the best way to do it is have support. But if you can't, then where is the pain in your body, right? Go to a guide like that Amanda has on what it represents and what each thing does, and journal. Really free associate and be like, what comes up with this? What is associated? Like, what was the sciatica one?
I think it was emotional. I think it was instability. I think lack of safety. I think financial insecurity.
Yes. Okay. So journal about that if that's what you're experiencing, right? If you're having back pain or neck pain, it's often grief. What are you feeling grief about? What have you lost? And really like get it out, because also what happens is that you stockpile your emotions and you have nowhere to put it. So having an outlet of some sort is really helpful. Processing that, you kind of can't do that on your own. Like
Mhm.
I really do think you need someone, but at least you could get it out, you know,
Yeah.
on your own. Like I think, but to the point, you still need your stuff, right? You still need the guide on like what it is
Yeah.
and what it's representing. And then for your own step, you can do that. Try and find, I don't know, maybe there's free I don't know, maybe your insurance has a free therapist. Go process that together. But there are different ways. We're not saying this is the only way to do it. I think it's probably the best is what I felt is like having this and that, you know? But I wanted to make it accessible
Yeah.
for everybody. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we have this podcast. That's why we have our profiles on social media. But
Mhm.
if you really want personalized attention and help, I think it speeds up the process personally. So, um,
Yeah.
but there's no time limit. Like everybody's different. It's going to happen in a different way. And it's also not like a one and done. It might come up again because it wasn't fully released, or maybe there's a part that's not ready to be released yet.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And we make it as accessible as we can, and you do
right.
your best, to try to find the support that you need. And you're never 100% healed. And we've said that
Yeah.
before. You're never 100% cleared of things. There's a multitude of stuff that's always coming to the surface. And it's Pandora's box, like, it's always coming, but
Right.
that's okay. Like, you do with it what you will, and you just get to a point where you feel good, and you just, you deal with
Right.
what's in front of you at the time, and to just feel your best so that you're living your best life possible, and that's all that you can do. And, as always, we're here to support and reach
Mhm.
out if you need anything.
Yes. Happy Halloween. Have fun, and we'll see you next episode.
Bye.